And Ole Miss is 7-1 as well. They're a one-loss SEC football team. So they just had a big-time road victory versus Oklahoma, and that's coming off of a game versus Georgia at home and losing that game by one possession, in which they were in command of that football game versus Georgia for like 90% of it. And that's the separator with Georgia, is just how they finish, the resiliency of how they finish football games. Ole Miss wins on the road versus Oklahoma 34-26. Are you not entertained? I had a lot of Oklahoma people saying, have you watched Oklahoma's defense? Yes. Have you watched Oklahoma's offense? Have you? Have you watched how heavily dependent they are on John Mateer? Go look at the rushing attempts versus Texas, Michigan, and one or two other games. He had 18 to 20 attempts or so versus the other running backs having 10 to 11 or 9. So, and they're doing split back carries, I believe, but there's not much of a rushing. They're just too heavily dependent on John Mateer, who is taking a beating this year in terms of rushing attempts, in terms of sacks, in terms of surgeries. So, Ole Miss did their job. Number 6, and the top 6 has kind of stayed the same teams for the last 3 weeks. But number 6 is Georgia Tech. They're the only undefeated ACC football team left in their conference. I got it written down here. Run the damn ball, Bert. That is what they do. They are a smash mouth football team. They used to be that triple option, team that you were like, they're still running the beer. Man, they run the triple option well, but they're 5-7. Now it's the revival of Haynes King, who was taken on by Texas A&M, a big time recruit out of Longview, Texas, out of East Texas, and Jimbo just was like, let's find a way to screw up his throwing motion. And let's take the dual threat quarterback that you are and turn you into a purebred pocket passer. And that turned into losing to Appalachian State at home in the SEC. So the revival of him is ever since he's been to Georgia Tech, it's kind of like a Jared Goff scenario in terms of NFL. It's like, okay, yeah, he was mediocre on the Rams, and then you get him with somebody that exploits his best attributes as a quarterback. And since he's been on the Lions, he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's taken a poverty franchise into competency, into relevancy, such as what Haynes King is doing for Georgia Tech. He's leading the team in rush touchdowns with 12. He's leading the team in rushing with over 650 yards. He has 7 passing touchdowns, so close to 20 total 20 total touchdowns on the year, and they're undefeated. And what Georgia Tech does phenomenally is they finish the game. They finish football games well. They have had a couple really close games. Duke was kind of like a trap game, and they pulled away at the end. They had a close game with Clemson when they were relevant at the beginning of the year. They pulled away at the end to get the win. They took control of the lead early on, and they continued to hammer and run the football, clock management, game management. They're not going to score a boatload of points every game. They're not the way they're tailored. They're going to run the football. And I keep saying that, but that's what they do.